Today is May 2nd, 2017, and a new BIOS arrived, 1.2, and IPMI 3.52 for Xeon D SuperServers. Not all of them, mind you. The Flex ATX motherboard with 2 PCI slots is a different animal entirely, and it gets a little bit behind on the BIOS releases. All right, let's get started. The usual warning, you're doing this at your own risk. I'm doing it the very day it came out, which is definitely risky. If you find issues, please comment them in the known issues links in the comment section underneath. You don't even need to log in to leave a comment. All right. Get started with getting the files. BIOS file is tiny. And IPMI. All right. Now it's going to take a little while to download there. Now, the procedure for updating the BIOS. There's many ways to do it. I'm going to stick with exactly what I've written here. I've done previous videos on this, but this time it's going to be kind of an Upgradeapolooza with both the BIOS and the IPMI all in one shot. And I'm ready by getting ready to do the steps by logging into IPMI, or also known as the BMC, Baseboard Management Controller Interface on the left here. And who likes Java? Nobody really. So I'm going to avoid Java and go with HTML5 as best I can tonight for getting all this work done. So here we go. Make sure your BIOS on, get into the BIOS setup. Okay, so I'm going to go to remote control. HTML5, this is how we avoid Java. That's because I'm on version 3.46 of the IPMI already, by the way. That's what lets me do that. I have no VMs running that are super important. Whatever operating system you have, you'll want to gracefully shut it down or reboot it at this point. Okay, when you do a restart, of course, you need to be careful and stay alert with getting ready to hit the keystroke to get into the BIOS settings. And that's the delete key. All right, let me get this sized right. I'm going to speed up this section of video until we actually have the chance to get into the BIOS setting. And I'm making as much screen real estate as you can see. All right. In the procedure, as we follow along here, you'll see that there are recommended settings for the BIOS. So I've got them all documented. So for me to go back to factory defaults or make changes, no big deal. It's all very well documented, including a video walkthrough and all the settings written down. So we're good there. And the first thing here is with the UEFI system, and this is the way they're shipped if you buy a bundle here from Wired Zone. They're shipped with UEFI on because it works very well with modern Windows and VMware and Red Hat and SUSE. You can boot from NVMe with that setting on, for instance. So that's the way to go for future-proofing by shipping machines with UEFI on. So the BIOS was upgraded for you if you got a bundle, but of course now we have a new one. As soon as we're comfortable with this new BIOS release, the bundles will start going out with the latest. All right, I hit the delete key and I'm getting into the BIOS now on the left. So first step is to turn this thing called, let me crank up the video quality max, good it is to get this setting here correct. So make sure you've temporarily turned CSM on. CSM on is over here under security. All right, got that on. Next, create a bootable USB drive using Rufus. So let me show you an article about Rufus, and it should have the download link right there. Oops, I should have just downloaded. Okay, that's going through the process of how you actually make it. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just grab Rufus from the source. And portable will do nicely. And I'm going to stick it right in that same Supermicro folder where we have the other stuff. Okay, so now we have a tool called Rufus. Great. And we need to stick this extracted, the extracted files under the root of this DOS bootable drive we're about to make. All right, so time for that little folder I have. I'm going to launch Rufus. Yes to user access control. And I'm going to say no, I don't need updates. It's portable, which is good. Now let's see what's going on here. So I've inserted a 32 gig USB key. Okay, with Rufus, when you stick in the drive, it should get auto-detected, and it did. Now, a few settings to be aware of. You want to make sure you're not on what you might find to be the default is GPT partition scheme. So as long as you go to MBR for both BIOS or UEFI types, you're good, and the word FreeDOS shows up. That's it. So just click Start. So what FreeDOS does is lays down a bootable DOS, and all we got to do is copy over those BIOS files over to this bootable media we're creating now. All right, so I'm going to extract. There are other ways to do BIOS upgrades, by the way. I'm focusing on the most universal, simple way. And also safe way, meaning it's physically going to be attached right to the server, not over some network connection, which always has a little more risk. All right, I can just say send to and pick the floppy disk. Oops, did I say floppy? What's that? Let's try that again. Right click, send to UltraFit, the thing we just made. Okay, that's better. So now we have bootable media and a flash utility, and I'm ready to proceed. So naturally I'm reaching for the bottom right and clicking the graceful eject button. And now I got to go stick it in the server. Be right back. Okay, the media is installed in the server. So it looks like my BIOS is all set. And because I didn't make any changes, I can just discard changes and exit. All right, that didn't work out so well. Now I had a feeling that there might be something up with my CSM setting because yep, there it is. So you can't be in UEFI to boot off of legacy DOS. So yeah, it looks like I just found a typo in my documentation. So yeah, that should be temporarily turned UEFI off. And then switch back UEFI mode down here. I am so sorry about that. Okay, so I gotta get ready with the delete key. Just simply go in, turn off the UEFI BIOS, and then CSM is already on. It should be fine to boot off this media at this point. Okay, F4, save and exit. So I went to legacy mode, and I'll make the directions clear on that as well. Okay, I'm going to hit F11 to invoke the boot menu. And that helps give me some control. So I'm going to add that to the directions too. And I quickly made the change to CSM to say that, to UEFI to say it should be off. All right. So over here on the left, when we're in legacy mode, it's very simple. Pick SanDisk. It's the only boot target. I want to boot from one of those hard drives. We're in DOS now. And right here in my directions, it did prompt us, by the way, to hit F11. All right, at the DOS command prompt, type in that. So here we go. Now I can type X10 and hit tab and cheat. And what do you know, type ahead works. Yeah, that works. All right, so you don't actually need the extension, but you can use it. Okay, so it finished, and it's warning me I need to power off. Now I have a way to, now you don't want to do IPMI power off because your motherboard's still plugged in to power. So I'm actually going to use a power strip I have that has individually addressable ports where I could just toggle power on and off. So you're about to see power disappear. It's burning 54 watts now with DOS idling. Screen on the left disappeared. And I'm waiting at least 15 seconds, just like my directions say to. Okay. Also a good time for me to remove the USB flash drive and go into the BIOS. So powering up now. Gonna need to reestablish IPMI. Okay, the Supermicro splash screen blocks some stuff. So I'm going to point out that little issue can be resolved. Okay, it looks like a second reboot's happening. So probably zap things to default. And like when you first turn on a machine and after putting in memory, the first time you power up after doing a flash upgrade of a BIOS is typically longer. And it looks like that's what it did. Second reboot. I didn't obviously touch anything, just letting it do whatever it needs to do. All right, first place I'm going to head will be the boot screen. It says dual. Okay, this thing has gone back to factory defaults. Why? Because you may remember I was in legacy, right? Looking around, there it is, 1.2, and Greenwich Mean Time. Memory speed, 2400, nice. That's something that just wasn't working right before. Cool. And the person who noticed the BIOS 1.2 today was hopeful that that is one of the things they'd fix. One of the known issues with 1.1c. So that's good. Very minor difference in performance, but still. All right. How about all these other settings? Yep, absolutely in factory defaults. So I'm going to whip you through this, setting my recommended ones. The only change I'm going to make is quiet boot. I'm going to disable because I don't want that Supermicro splash screen blocking you from seeing stuff like what memory speed was recognized as, and what count and all that. Anyhow, you just see a richer boot experience there. Okay, turning off. Leave that alone, sorry. Boot and unlock off. That drives me nuts when that's on. I like 4 seconds push and hold, and I like it to stay off. That's just me. You might have your own preference. That stuff's more personal preference. Hit escape, head over to SATA, and I've got two SSDs, so let me change those to SSD type. Go a little fast here. Okay. And then boot mode. Okay, I have one other tweak. On my system, I have a PCIe card in there. And the PCIe card has 2 M.2 slots. So for this to work, for adapters that give you multiple M2 slots in your PCIe card, you need to turn that on. And I'll have to update my articles accordingly to notate that recent discovery. Okay, head on over to boot, change it to UEFI type, and that's about it. Let's see, I do have ESXi in there, and there we go. So I want that to come up first. In my case, save changes. Now let her rip. So what we should see is a better splash screen without the Supermicro logo, and then it should just cruise right into ESXi. If I see ESXi begin to boot, I'm good with that. And I'll probably just power off at that point and move forward with flashing IPMI next. So ESXi is booting off a USB key that I stuck back in when I pulled out the DOS boot USB key to get the firmware upgrade done. Okay, in just a few more seconds, we'll know. We already know we succeeded with the BIOS upgrade 1.2. Now we're about to find out if everything acts the same as it always did in here. I'll have to review the video too to see where CSM is. Sometimes between the releases, they've changed the CSM setting. So good to be aware if you have boot problems, you'll want to look at the CSM setting on the security tab of the BIOS. Okay, here we go. 2.1, 2400 for the speed negotiated. Little boot from LAN thing comes up briefly, kind of interrupting the flow. And VMware's coming up. Okay, there's a bit of lag there in the power control. All right, so it's powered off, and I'm ready to go to IPMI next. And there you go. Flash IPMI. All right, need a browser. I got one of those. It's right here. It's already logged in and everything. Very important to follow the directions carefully again. I've had lots of comments on the site, and a lot of it can result from just not quite following the directions. So here we go. Log in. Yep, already did that. Under maintenance, IPMI configuration. This is pretty easy, right? I can save my IPMI config, but I have nothing special in there. If you have like notifications or email alerts when something changes, whatever, this would be your chance to save that. And actually, yeah, let me do that because I believe I did set a little something up. So let me have a look here. NTP, that's a good one. Good one to set up, and actually setting it up ended up being a little bit goofy, I remember. So we look at date and time. There. So if these settings are still there after this upgrade I'm about to do, I'll know I succeeded in saving the IPMI config. So let's save it. It's a config file that's named with a bin extension. That is weird, but okay. And I can call it something like IPMI 3.46 May. So that's the date. Okay. Well, at least it's there if I want it. I'm not sure I'm going to bother reload it. Okay, where are we? We're on step choose file. And we have an issue. I need to extract it. So I got a little sloppy there. Extract it. All right, so to get IPMI, you need to have an extracted directory. Let me make sure my directions talk about that somewhere. Interrupting mode, using IPMI. Okay, yeah, I'll clean that up just a little bit, make it clear. So in the Redfish folder, we're going to find another folder. Inside that folder, we've got the bin file. And now the user interface is happy. Great. But I'm not seeing Okay, next, go to Maintenance Firmware Update. Maintenance, Firmware Update. Enter Update Mode, and click OK. choose the file. Choose the file. And it's in the wrong place because, well, it doesn't have the right place to go. I haven't extracted it yet. So redfish needs to be extracted. So another spot I can clean up the documentation a little bit on this draft article. All right, cool. And why not cheat and just get the path copied right into here. Okay, now we can get rid of, go into the folder that's extracted and go in and get the bin. All right, so the user interface is now happy, and we can minimize some clutter, get rid of those Windows Explorer windows, and click on Upload Firmware. Image file, this may take a while, okay. So we have a quick peek over at Ethernet activity under Task Manager. We should see the bits flowing up. Doesn't look like a whole lot has happened yet. So be very careful on this next screen to uncheck both boxes before you do the upgrade. That's another set of comments that people left on the site when they missed that step. Something a little weird may have happened. Huh. All right. Seems like it choked a little. Maybe the file's bigger, scratch space is missing, maybe IPMI is rebooting to clean up. I don't really know. I strongly suspect my second attempt will work just fine. But who knows? All right, let me just hit refresh. Looks like... Got logged off. That was a little weird. Maintenance. There's our firmware update, and there's our BIOS, by the way, 1.2. Okay, maintenance, firmware update. Enter update mode. Choose that file again. Upload the firmware. And let's see if anything's happening here. You may notice there was a README in there. So probably a really good time to check out that README as well. Not seeing a whole lot of Ethernet activity, but it went better that time. And yeah, that's about redfish. That's not about the IPMI upgrade process. Okay. I didn't install an SSL certificate. In fact, I'm not even logging in with HTTPS right now to avoid kind of red X's everywhere. So, but I still want to uncheck those two. Yeah, I'll go to defaults there too. Okay, so there's our old, there's our new. All that looks good. Okay, we've made it to step 5 where it says wait for another minute, and I waited a good 2 minutes. So if I click here, I want to see if the UI is responsive. It says the word rebooting. So now I wait some more. Okay, it's responding. I'm curious if it enforces HTTPS. Yes, it does. Okay. Yay, success, 3.52. So we're good. Interesting that the BIOS is now hidden. BIOS version no longer shows on that screen. All right, quick look around. Did anything change? Anything obvious? Well, the machine's powered off, so we're not going to see anything there. Time. That's all gone. So how about I go to maintenance? IPMI configuration. And I'm going to load in that file we saved. Okay, so it wants me to wait a minute. Don't need to wait at this part, you can just click OK. Okay, I'm just going to try to hit refresh, see if anything happens. I have a feeling it's going to bump me. Yep, it's still in the middle of rebooting, so I didn't, maybe I was a little short of a minute there. When the little web server built into the baseboard management controller or IPMI interface is ready, usually the screen pops on over to have you authenticate again. Find out shortly. It doesn't help that I'm in HTTPS here, because you might remember my config that I was messing around with recently actually didn't have HTTPS. So let's see if we can get in. It looks like they might have made a change. Okay, I've actually seen this issue with cookies, so let me fix that quick. Whoa, okay, go to settings, advanced, clear content. Sure, I can clear all that stuff. And there you go. Caching issue. And by the way, that's done with configuration and ports. Oops, configuration and ports. If you want to turn off HTTPS on a private network that has no internet access, you have the option of turning off web SSL port and SSL redirection. And then you get yourself this non-secure connection. Let's have a look at remote control. iKVM had some issues here, so I'm going to head over to IPMI known issues. Check those out. Here they are. Macro said Marco, so we can check that. At this point, the video is done, right? And I will point out that there's an optional step here. Okay, right here. Unplug the power cord is recommended. All right. And I never did that. So at this point, I'm going to do that. Just at some point after doing the code upgrade, it's a good idea to yank wall power anyway to make sure everything's fine after it recovers. So now I'm going to go powerless for a full minute. Okay, I've waited a minute. Reapply power. And now wait another minute for IPMI to come up. You can see it's using a few watts as IPMI boots. Okay, minutes gone by. See if the web server is responding now. Okay, it's all good now. Let's see, remote control. Ooh, rebooted a second time. All right, how about I go to configuration, see if my time configuration held, NTP. It did, so that's good. And what else we got? Remote control. HTML5 and disconnected. Okay, so I guess that's not going to work until power is up. So, oh yeah, back on the main screen here, you've got your power button right there. That's one place you can do it. Okay, so we're powering the machine back up, and it'd be good to watch it and make sure everything acts normal. On this first boot, since everything's been upgraded and power was removed for a full minute, could have been as little as 15 seconds, by the way, is a recommendation that Supermicro Support once made to me. Okay, let's see if I can get remote control going. Did I wait a little bit? No. Okay, so maybe they're enforcing HTTPS or something. I'll go back and check that in a moment. Okay. I'm convinced going non-standard was not a good idea. So I'm going back to how it's supposed to be configured. And there we go. It's enforcing HTTPS. That was pretty quick. All right, let's try remote control again. I'm confident it's going to be just fine now. It was a little strange though, because yeah, it worked. On 3.46 IPMI, you could have HTTPS off and all this worked, including HTML5. Okay, is macro spelled correctly? Yes, it is. On the submenu, it's macro. So that's cool. They fixed that. Super minor bug. But let's see what else we got. So the known issue of the BIOS 11C memory not being recognized 2400, we saw that fixed. And the known issue of Supermicro, we just saw a minor spelling error checked. What else we got? Keystrokes in the UI. Okay, I'll type some over here. Easy way to mount. Okay, that's a big one. Did they add ISO mounting yet? Doesn't look like it. The answer appears to be no. Okay, so you're going to have to still mount that through the network share technique. Through the old UI. And I've got an article about that, so let me not focus on that. Where was I? People got this error in Firefox, but not on Chrome or Microsoft Edge. Okay. This video is so long anyway. Why not? Let's just do it. Firing up Firefox. Before I mess with another remote console, let's just make sure this one's working. Do a little bit of QA testing, some basics. We'll see about kind of an early BIOS boot splash screen. Can really have some troubles where it seemed you couldn't always get in here, but okay, I'm in. Yep, everything seems to be working fine. Quality looks good. No obvious changes, just hopefully maybe more stable and maybe less odd for people when they are using Firefox, which we're about to test. Closing HTML5. Let's wrap up. Ooh, that's Firefox. Hang on. I want to wrap up console redirection. Just making sure after the HTTPS change that everything's good over there. Yep, it appears everything is good there too. Okay, heading over to Firefox now that those windows are closed. Let's try remote control iKVM through HTML5. Okay, no video recording. Alrighty. Anyhow, it seemed to work, so that's good. See if I can hit some keystrokes. Yep. Okay, see if the submenus seem to work. Helps if I type in the right password. It's okay. Obviously all that's going to look the same. It's just HTML5. Either it works or it doesn't, pretty much. Not that fancy for formatting either. And Java. Okay, someone couldn't even get Java remote console to go. So let's see if my Firefox is happy with that. Scary stuff. Don't really want to use Java. You can avoid it. But I'm in. I don't have a Mac handy to test all this, so that would be another thing to test. So please leave me a comment. Only 1 in 2,000 people that visit articles leave comments. That's it. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching and for visiting tinkertry.com.